These are the stages of the people of Israel when they went out of the land of Egypt by their companies under the leadership of Moses and of Aaron. Moses wrote down their starting places, stage by stage, by command of the Lord, and these are their stages according to their starting places. They set out from Ramesses the first month, on the 15th day of the first month. On the day after the Passover, then the people of Israel went out triumphantly in the sight of all the Egyptians, while the Egyptians were burying all their firstborn, whom the Lord had struck down among them. On their gods also the Lord executed judgments. So the people of Israel set out from Ramses, and camped at Succoth, and they set out from Succoth and camped out at Etham, which is on the edge of the wilderness. And they set out from Etham and turned back to Pi-hahiroth, which is the east of Baal Zephon, and they camped before Migdol. And they set out from before Hahiroth and passed through the midst of the sea into the wilderness. And they were a 3 days' journey in the wilderness of Etham and camped at Marah. And they set out from Marah and came to Elim. At Elim there were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees, and they camped there. And they set out from Elim and camped by the Red Sea. And they set out from the Red Sea and camped in the wilderness of Sin. And they sent out from the wilderness of Sin and camped at Dophkah. And they set out from Dophkah and camped at Alush. And they set out from Alush and camped at Rephidim, where there was no water for the people to drink. And they set out from Rephidim and camped in the wilderness of Sinai. They set out from the wilderness of Sinai and camped at Kibroth-Hattaavah. And they set out from Kibroth-Hattaavah and camped at Hazeroth. And they set out from Hazeroth and camped at Rithmah. And they set out from Rithmah and camped at Rimmon Perez. And they set out from Rimmon Perez and camped at Libnah. And they set out from Libnah and camped at Rissah. And they set out from Rissah and camped at Kehelathath. And they set out from Kehelathath and camped at Mount Shepher. And they set out from Mount Shepher and camped at Haradah. And they set out from Haradah and camped at Machaloth. And they set out from Machaloth and camped at Tahath. They set out from Tahath and camped at Terah. And they set out from Terah and camped at Mittah. And they set out from Mithkah and camped at Hasmonah. And they set out from Hasmonah and camped at Masurath. And they set out from Masurath and camped at Bnei Jacan. And they set out from Bnei Jacan and camped at Hor Haggidgad. And they set out from Hor Haggidgad and camped at Jotbathah. They set out from Jotbathah and camped at Abonah. And they set out from Abonah and camped at Ezion-Geber. And they set out from Ezion-Geber and camped in the wilderness of Zin, that is Kadesh. And they set out from Kadesh and camped out at Mount Hor, on the edge of Edom. And Aaron the priest went up Mount Hor and at the command of the Lord, and died there in the 40th year after the people of Israel had come out of the land of Egypt, on the first day of the 5th month. And Aaron was 123 years old when he died on Mount Hor. And the Canaanite, the king of Arad, who lived in the Negev in the land of Canaan, heard of the coming of the people of Israel. And they set out from Mount Hor and camped at Zalmonah. And they set out from Zalmonah and camped at Punon. And they set out from Punon and camped at Oboth. And they set out from Oboth and camped at Abarim, in the territory of Moab. And they set out from Eam and camped at Dibon-Gad. And they set out from Dibon-Gad and camped at Almon Diblathaim. And they set out from Almon Diblathaim and camped in the mountains of Abarim before Nebo. They set out from the mountains of Abarim and camped in the plains of Moab by the Jordan at Jericho. They camped by the Jordan from Beth Jeshimon as far as Abel Shittim in the plains of Moab.